The flu jab made me ill. I'm not having it again.
Yeah, I don't ever get the flu. I don't need the jab.
I think if you have a good diet and exercise, you don't need to.
Well, I don't need to have the flu jab. I had it last year.
I think there are many misunderstandings about the flu jab. All healthcare workers within the NHS are fully aware of how many patients come into hospital over the winter and the flu season, and many of these would be secondary to flu. The flu jab is a dead bit of the flu. Therefore, in itself, it cannot give people flu. But it triggers the body's immune response so that if you're unfortunate enough to be infected, your body is ready to be able to fight it. The effectiveness of the flu jab varies year to year. It's based on the particular flu virus, and the flu jab is then generated and manufactured based on that seasonal variation. And sometimes we get that exactly right and there can be a very high effectiveness of the flu jab, and sometimes it's not so good. You hear people blame, well, after the flu jab I got the flu. That's often not the case. You just happen to have had a cold. The flu is very different to a cold. The flu causes a much higher temperature for a prolonged period of time, and there is this intense achiness, lethargy, weakness that comes with the flu that's not seen with a common cold. When I have my flu jab and do feel a bit achy, and you can often have a bit of an achy arm, that's a good thing, because I know then that my body is reacting in the way that I want it to be able to produce that immune response to stop me from getting the flu.
We're pretty physically close to our patients when we look after them without us being aware that we're passing on the flu to them. Sometimes we might have the flu and still feel healthy. Yes, you can pass it on to people without you being aware that you've got it. The flu virus can live outside the body because when you have it, or you might not even aware that you have it, and you've sneezed or touched somewhere without other people knowing that you've got the flu virus, other people goes around and touch it and it stays there up to 2 hours. Patients that are compromised due to their health problem, and elderly people, young people as well, they're vulnerable to catch the flu.
There are many reasons why all of us working in the NHS should have the flu jab. The most obvious one is that it of course protects yourself from being ill. Over the winter period during the flu season, as healthcare workers, we're obviously in contact with people who may well have the flu. And there's no way of knowing, other than doing swabs, if they are ill because of flu. Our children, our loved ones, may not have chronic conditions and so are not eligible to have the flu jab themselves, and so they are at risk of getting it from us. We are at risk of giving it to our patients. Patients have not come here to become ill.
It should be a necessity as a security for patients, and to protect patients from the flu. You need to be protected.
If the person hadn't had a flu jab, there is a possibility that you could transfer your flu to me.
If there was a major flu outbreak in the region of our local hospital, many of the people in the population would get flu, but of course so would many of our staff. If staff are ill with flu, clearly they wouldn't be able to work. If our staff can't work, we then don't have the capacity within the organisation to be able to look after the increased number of patients that would also be coming into the hospital. So it becomes a double risk.
We have nurses that have been trained to give flu jab in most of the wards now, which makes it much easier for nurses to be able, you come onto the wards now and give it to staffs that needs to have the flu virus, which has increased the numbers of staff having their flu jab compared to previously when they have to go to the occupational health or go to the GP and have it. They can come anytime and have their flu jab. It's very important for the staff to have the flu jab soon than waiting when the season of January comes when it's very bad.
From a very early age, I've always been aware of how dangerous flu can be. Sadly, in the 1950s, my mother's sister had a very short illness of only a couple of days, only 6 months after getting married actually, and she died. And she died of flu. And of course in those days there was no flu jab. There were no treatments for flu. And so I've always been aware on a personal level how dangerous flu can be. And it's always been something that's been very close to my mind to ensure that I protect myself, and I encourage staff that I work with within the NHS and colleagues and friends who are eligible for the flu jab to make sure that they get themselves treated.